guys. So everybody knows that if you're playing a 12-bar blues, you can just play the standard blues scale in the key that you're in over the entire chord progression. Right, that sounds nice and bluesy, sounds really cool. But when you sort of want to start pushing the boundary a bit and getting a bit more sort of jazzy notes in there or sounding a bit more complex, a lot of the scales you'll find, and some of them that I've taught in past lessons, are sort of a bit more complex, or they sound more complex at the very least. So you'll see things like, play the D Dorian, or play the Lydian dominance mode, or play a Mixolydian mode, or play the whole tone scale, stuff like that. So in this lesson, I wanted to give you a few little cheats, essentially, that you can use to get more sort of out there jazzier sounds without actually needing to memorize whole new scales or learning modes or learning whole tone scales or diminished scales or any of the sort of more musically complex stuff. So essentially all I'm going to show you in this lesson is how to play a 12-bar blues using different blues scales. So I'm going to be playing in the key of C, so just playing the standard 12-bar blues in the key of C. And I'm going to take you through a whole bunch of different blues scales, so exactly the same scale as the C blues, just transposed to other keys that you can use, and I'm going to explain why you can use them. Alright, so let's start with the easiest and simplest one. Over a 12-bar blues in the key of C, you can obviously play the C blues scale. That sounds cool, nice and easy. So another blues scale you can play over that exact same chord progression, that is a 12-bar blues in the key of C, is the F blues scale. And that'll sound like this. Sounds a bit more sort of wrong, I suppose, or out there, a bit more jazzy, but it still sounds alright. And the reason that works is because most of the notes in the F blues scale are also in the C blues scale. So the F blues scale has F, which is also in the C blues scale, A flat, which is not in the C blues scale, but it's the flat third of the F7 chord, which is your fourth. So in that sense it sounds okay. You've got your B flat, which is in the C blues scale. The B, which is not at all in the C blues scale, so it sounds a bit off, but it's okay if you sort of run past it. The C, which is in the C blues scale, and the E flat, which is also in the C blues scale. So you've got... So almost all the notes in the F blues scale are also in the C blues scale, which is why that works. Now another blues scale you can use over the C 12-bar blues is the G blues scale, and that sounds like this. So as you hear, that sounds generally pretty good, and again that works for the exact same reason. The notes in the G blues scale are G, B flat, C, D flat, D, F. Now the G and the B flat are both in the C blues scale. The C is in the C blues scale. The D flat and the D are not, but they act as effectively a flat 9 and a 9. And then the F is in the C blues scale. So you're just adding a flat 9 and a 9 to your C blues scale, and you're getting the sort of G blues scale sound. So that's also why that generally works. Now you may have noticed that I was essentially just using the blues scale from the 1, the 4 and the 5. Now that almost by definition works because you're using the 1, the 4 and the 5 in the 12-bar blues chord progression in your left hand. But there are other blues scales you can use as well. So for example, over that same 12-bar blues chord progression in the key of C, you can use an A blues scale. And that sounds like this. Now that sounds good as well, but that obviously has a little bit of a different sound if you were listening. That sounds a bit more major, and the reason is because the A blues scale, or the A minor pentatonic, is the exact same thing as the C major pentatonic. So you're effectively playing the C major pentatonic over a C blues. And that works because you're missing the B, or the major 7. So you're just skipping that note completely. So all of those notes work great. And then the A blues scale also has the E flat, which is also in the C blues scale, so you win there again. Now the next couple I'm going to show you have a bit more of a sort of out there, even more jazzy sound. So it may sound a bit off at times, but again, there's no reason you can't use them, and I'll explain why afterwards. But so over that same 12-bar blues progression in C, I'm going to play the D blues scale, and that sounds like this. So that sounds a bit more strange, doesn't quite sit perfectly within the blues, in the sense that it doesn't give it a purely bluesy sound. But that again largely works because the notes are D, F, G, A flat, A, C. So C is in the C blues, F and G are in the C blues. That leaves D, which is the 9th from the point of view of a C7, and then the A flat and the A. The A is a 6th from the point of view of the C, and the A flat is a bit of a sort of out there chord, but again that's the minor 3rd of the 4 chord. So again that can sound okay, especially over the F7. But again, so that's a bit more sort of a stranger sound, but you can use a D blues scale over a C 12-bar blues. Another one you can use is the B flat blues scale, and that sounds like this. So again, that sounds even more out there. The notes there are B flat, D flat, E flat, E, F, A flat, B flat. Now, B flat, E flat, and F are all in the C blues scale. The E is the major 3rd from the point of view of the C. The D flat is the flat 9 from the point of view of the C. And the A flat is the minor 3rd from the point of view of the F, or the sharp 9, however you want to think about it. So all of those notes work as well. But as you heard, it does sound sort of a bit more jazzy, and let's say jazzy. I don't want to say wrong. And the last blues scale I want to show you that you can use over a standard 12-bar blues chord progression in C is the E flat blues scale. And that sounds like this. Right, now that sounded almost terrible, bordering on terrible, really. But if you work through those notes, most of them largely fit. The E flat is in, well, sorry, the notes in the E flat blues scale are E flat, G flat, A flat, A, B flat, D flat, and then back to E flat. So the E flat and the G flat are in the blues scale. The A flat is not, but that's again the minor third from the point of view of the F, which is the 4 chord. The A is not in the blues scale, but that's a major 6th from the point of view of the C. The B flat is in the blues scale, and the D flat is not, but from the point of view of the C, again, that's the flat 9. So all of those notes, in theory, work over a C blues chord progression as well. Now, it sounds a bit funky and out there because you're not playing enough sort of safe notes, that is, like the 1 and the 5, or even the major third. If you throw in a few more C's, E's and G's in between or with the E flat blues scale or any of these other sort of more out there blues scale, you can get it to sound a bit more like you know what you're doing. It doesn't just sound like you picked the wrong key or you're playing in the wrong key and you have no idea what you're doing. So maybe something like this. Right, or something like that. So all of these extra multiple blues scales that you can be playing over the C blues chord progression, you really don't want to be playing them exclusively or the same ones all the way through. They're more ideas that you can sort of mix and match, and because you're just playing the blues scale, just transposing it to different keys, it's quite easy. Whether you're on sort of the guitar, so you can just sort of slide up and down the same fret, or like up and down a couple frets, or on piano, where the fingering for most of those are pretty much the same, like the D blues and the A blues have the same sort of pattern in terms of white and black notes. So the idea is really to mix them in between the C blues scale. So you're not just sort of sitting on the B flat blues scale the whole way through a C 12-bar blues chord progression, because as you heard, that might sound a bit funny. But if you mix them in, or those types of ideas, so you're playing the C blues scale, then you throw in the A, back to C, to F, back to C, to E flat, back to C. Now they weren't seamless transitions in the least, but you get the general idea, or you get where I'm getting at. So instead of memorizing your C mixolydians or your F Lydian dominants or things like that, you can just be like, all right, well I can play the 1, 4, 5, the 6, the 2, all blues scales, and just sort of go back and forth between them and the blues scale. And when you get better at that, you can sort of go back and forth between each one of those. So you can go from the F blues to the G blues to the A blues back to the C blues and resolving it there. Now I should also say that while you're playing these, you're playing scales, which is fine, but you can also mix it in with sort of passing notes or wrong notes. So when you're playing your C, you can hit the chromatic all the way down, and then start playing the A. Chromatic up, then to the C back, C blues again. So stuff like that. And I've got a separate lesson on sort of how to play wrong notes, where I discuss sort of the idea of creating stress and then releasing the stress by going back into the scale. So watch that if you're interested. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Hope that made sense. Hope that sort of gave you another way of thinking about how to play scales over the blues or improvise over the blues. Feel free to leave any questions or comments. Cheers, guys.